welcome and happy Monday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back. Welcome ourselves back. It's been a whole month. And so we are so happy that you are here with us. Goodness, it's been some time, but we are so thankful that we could come back today and talk more about marriage. We're hoping that you will be receive a blessing from today's program. But welcome, Dr. White, and to all of our
Happy
viewing audience as well.
Happy Manic Monday, sis.
Happy Manic. It is manic. It is always something going on, but it is a Monday. What we were saying, like we're a little bit late coming on this evening because I said, we haven't been doing this for a month, and all of a sudden it's like we forgot how to do this. But we are here, and we are happy that you, our viewers, are here as well. We like to see, because we have a world wide audience. We're an online. This is an online program on the internet, but we advertise this, and it goes all around the world that we're doing this. So we want to know where you're watching from. So please let us know where you're watching from so we can say a special welcome to you. So yes.
Us back. Hello, Deborah. Hope you drive safely on your way home.
There's Eric from Orlando, Florida, and Jamie from New Zealand. I see all the way from New Zealand. Jamie, what time is it in New Zealand? Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow meaning, is it Tuesday, the 4th? I'm just curious.
Tobago.
Yes, hey, Camille from Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, welcome. Special welcome to all of you. And we are excited. Yes, it is Tuesday. Okay. South America. All right. Guyana. All right, Michelle. Nice to have you. San Diego. Again, not too far from you, Dr. White. Yes. And then we have, it just says Rocks. So welcome, Rocks from Maryland. Yes. Kim from Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Welcome, Kim.
Yes, we are excited to have each and every one of you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I am so excited. I know people are going to be blessed.
Yes.
What were you going to say?
They are going to be blessed, and they're going to be blessed, and by God's grace, they're going to be blessed. And you know what? You're popping again. And so I know I don't want that to be the case, because I don't want that to be the case for sure this evening. But so can you go out and come back in? I mean, I know that it's worked before. I have no idea why it does that. Before we go on the air, he doesn't break up. And then when we get on the air, sometimes recently he's been breaking up. So we're going to just let Dr. White come back in. Hopefully that will fix the problem, and it won't be going on throughout the program. But we are excited because we're going to be talking about divorced busting, meaning this is something that Michelle Weiner Davis is the one who came up with this term, and she has a whole program. And she, does amazing work with marriages and couples, for couples whose relationships are on the brink. What I like about her is, she talks about how she was originally traditionally doing traditional therapy. Okay, bringing Dr. White back in here. Marriage and family are doing therapy with these couples. I'm just introducing Michelle Weiner Davis so people can get an idea of who she is. You know more, so after I say my little spill, you can go in a little bit deeper, Dr. White. But what I was saying, what I like about her is that she was doing traditional therapy, like 1 hour a week with couples who were having major struggles, on the brink of divorce. And she just found that just wasn't enough time, like 1 hour a week. So she went into doing like 2 days, 48 hours with couples, spending more time with them so she can get more in depth or get a better understanding of their issues. And one of the videos that I watched of hers is that she has 5 points that she says, hey, if you implement these 5 points in your marriage, it will improve your marriage. And so she's had great success with her program. But Dr. White, please share more about your experience with Michelle Weiner Davis's program.
So, as therapist, she has from Oprah Winfrey to 2020 to 48 months. She's published about 7 books. As for the divorce busting, what is it? Campus or some Colorado, and you
Yes.
mentioned you can come out for 2-day intensives.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap, I imagine
Right.
it's not cheap, but if you're looking at something expensive, divorce is
Mm-hmm.
definitely
Divorce
too
isn't cheap.
well
Divorce isn't cheap.
by half. Her costs are very reasonable in
Right.
that light. Relationship and enjoying happiness in your relationship.
Right.
Um,
You know, you're not popping, you're cutting out a little bit. I'm just wondering if you have your ear pods. I feel like when you did that one time, it like totally got rid of it. But it's not as bad as it was, but just a little choppy. But while you're doing that, I was going to say in graduate school, I had a professor who had um, he was a marriage and family therapist as well, but he in Florida started, I think, what was the, I can't think of the name right now, but it's the same concept. I think he did 72 hours, but he would have couples whose marriages were on the brink. That's what the name of his program was. Come down to this place in Florida, and for 72 hours, he had a whole program where he could basically, the marriage was on life support basically, but they wanted to still try to get help. And again, it wasn't cheap either, but it definitely he had a lot of success with that as well. So there's something to be said for that type of program when your marriage is on the brink and your next step is just to go to the courthouse and file. I think I saw a video that Michelle Weiner Davis did that said some people come to her and they've already filed, but they still want to see if there's a possibility that they can save their marriage. So yeah, so we're going to jump into some of the stuff. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it her claim is actually working with one of the men door. She importance of skills. So often, if I don't know.
You know what? We can hear you're not popping. It's just that you're going in and out. So we're hearing like we see your mouth moving and then we're hearing like every other word. So it's like we can't get it. And you have such important things to say. I mean, and we have to hear it. And you've already put
yeah.
It is. We definitely have to do a test run like before we come on next week. But I don't think Eric. Keep talking and see if it's there. No, Eric, I don't think it's you. I'm hearing the same thing.
Right. 1, 2, 3. So is this good or still? 1, 2, 3.
We can hear the testing 1, 2, 3. Keep going. I mean, just keep talking naturally, and I'll stop you.
Yeah. She's able to work with one member of the couple, even when foot out the door, and that, man, I'm losing my train of thought.
I know.
But,
I will. Okay.
But the bottom line, maybe when I'm talking, if you mute,
okay,
and vice versa, and we'll see if that works. But the bottom line, she's very, very skilled, and what people think in a relationship, if we love each other enough, okay, and is for a thriving vibrant really need tools and skills and skills. And so teaching people need, empowering them with the tools in order to do well. Saying that if you love Mercedes enough, go ahead.
I muted my mic and so I was muted that whole time, I know everybody's trying to give us help. They're saying I muted my mic while you were talking to see if that helped, and it still was cutting out a little bit, not quite as bad, but still. I'm thinking someone's saying, I don't know, maybe try disconnecting the mic and reconnecting. I don't know. Are you using your computer mic? Or is it an exterior mic plugged into your computer? Or no, you're using your headphones. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to everyone else. You're right. This is definitely, you see, marriage is under attack. Like the enemy does not want, and don't worry, we will give you as much as we can today. And we're going to continue on for the rest of the weeks until you have all the information you need to have a really good marriage. At least you'll have the tools to know what could help. So even though the enemy is constantly trying to cause disarray with our mic situation, we are not going to withhold this information. So it will go forth. Let's see, hopefully. All right. So he's going to work on that a little bit. But as Dr. White was saying, I was like, what we did through the marriage talk that we did, I can't even say earlier this month, I guess at the end of August, early September, with the program that we were talking about that helps marriage with the 4 apocalypse, the horse, yes, or towards the 4 horsemen going towards. We talked about that, and I was more familiar with that. But Dr. White is definitely more familiar with Michelle Weiner Davis's work, and so I'm being introduced to her and learning more, and I love what I've heard so far, and can't wait to share it with all of you. But that's why I desperately want his microphone to work.
How's this?
That sounds better. I don't hear any popping or breaking off. Yeah, just go with that.
All right, we'll go with this one then. So,
yay.
Yeah, I mean, she's just a phenomenal resource, and you definitely want to take her stuff. Definitely want to read her books because she's just a giant in the field of divorce busting, basically.
Yes. Well, we're going to jump right into her to share. We're going to jump right in because we're starting a little late and we have the technical difficulties. But we were going to share the 5 steps that she says that will improve your marriage. This is just the beginning. She goes into much deeper in other areas as well, but we were just going to start to share that this evening and to let you know that we are taking your questions. So please put in the chat, your comments, your questions, and we will do our very best to get to as many of them as possible. But the first one out of the 5 that really stood out to me, actually they all were they're all great, but she calls it real giving. And she's talking about giving your spouse the things that they really like or want, and even if you don't like it yourself and you don't want to do it, to give them what makes them happy and not to do it grudgingly. The body language, the words, all of that have to go with the gift. So you're giving a gift of what they like, Like Dr. White, I'm sure there's something that your wife likes as gifts that you could you don't care about, but you give them because you know that this is what she likes and what she cares about. Tell us about the importance of doing that.
Well, so easy to, say, hey, that person, it doesn't make sense that they want that. Well, how on earth can they possibly, like that? Like they're like my watching movies about like Christmas, for example.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those movies, like they're so corny, but that's what does it for them. And come enjoy
Mm-hmm.
the movie. Come enjoy it with me. And
Right.
the key, it's not just come and enjoy the movie, but don't be a sourpuss while you are like actually
Right.
enjoy and be amicable and give generously. But in
Mm-hmm.
watching a movie I would want to watch, it's making it a point to watch what they.
Right. Right. Um, and and again, yeah, it's just so important. Like they have to feel like, oh, and they'll know, like your wife, my husband, they know what we like. And if we're going out of our way to do the thing that they like, and we're acting and not acting, but we are authentically behaving as if we're enjoying this, um, that really speaks volumes to them. It really, shows like, okay, that we really care, that we're here for their happiness. Like we want to make them happy. And this is vice versa. So the spouse, can is to do that back for you as well. Um, yes.
Well,
I thought I go ahead.
sim- it's going to inspire that. Like if you do
Mhm.
a good job doing it, it's going to natural to also reciprocate and give you what you want.
Right.
And yeah, it's just it. How's my video? Is my video tolerable?
Your video yes, your video's fine. We see your bookshelf. We see all the books that you read, which is fine. That's good. It's good. Something else that that she goes into is even for the physical, the sexual relationship, and the health of using this principle that we just spoke about really giving, because you know women. I'm speaking to all the women. We know that we are looking for emotional connection first, right? And if we don't get the emotional connection, then it's harder for us to enter into the physical connection. And the males are looking for the physical connection, and then they're more open to give the emotional connection. And she talks about that when um, we see our husbands being just kind of distant or moody or whatever, it's because they're not getting that those physical needs met. And then when the wife is being kind of moody and she's not getting her emotional needs met. And so she uses this real giving of gifts, that principle within the intimate physical sexual relationship of the marriage as well.
What I really like that she highlighted in the dynamic was the paralysis.
Hmm.
Doesn't A woman is not getting the emotional connection, so she paralyzes. So she's
Right.
not dug in. She doesn't want to move forward physically, and
Right.
then the guy's not getting the physical touch per se. He's grumpy and he's not wanting to move. And so what she's saying is, if you're this, then the question you would ask yourself, like let's say your relationship, you'd say, hey, when was the last time we had sex? And of course, if you addressed the need, then what you would see is going to like things are going to open up, and in like man, you as a man, as a husband, notices that they're still complaining about mic issues. If you, as a man,
but it's pretty good. It's not that it's not that bad. I'm hearing it well.
okay, nice. Yeah, yeah. So and if this is saying that, hey, you know what, she is uptight, she's distant, then he might say, when was the last time I spent some time with her, and I
Right.
shared and we bonded from an emotional because that's what might at the base of her being frustrated and short,
Right.
and so on and so forth. A lot of times we're not arguing about this. There's a layer deeper that's going on. And
Right.
if we address that layer, then we will see movement towards one another.
Right. Right.
Now, Deborah, did you see the question Deborah's asking? How can you help your husband without forcing him? You know what I love about that question? One of the often you hear it so much. You hear it said, you can't change people. And that's not true. It just so is not about this. It's not true that you can't change people. And a simple example, if you let's say go to your spouse and bring up an argument, for example, you bring up an issue that you know is a touchy issue. It's your sacred stone. It's your third rail, so to speak. Anytime you guys are not going to feel very good about one another, you're influencing, and you're supposed to bring that up. And so keep that in mind as we deal with this question. Spouse be emotionally attached without forcing him. So we kind of just answered that because what we said was, a husband is not going to prioritize emotional connection. What they are going to prioritize is and being addressed from a physical standpoint. So one of the things that emotional connection is giving that might not be as important to you, but it's important to him. So her thesis and her premise is you do that, it's going to help. Now that said, we don't know the dynamics of friendship per se, so we can't really speak to that. But in the context of the giving, the premise is when you give what that wants, it can at times inspire them to give you what you want. Connection. He wants intimate connection. That the woman only wants emotional connection. She does not. That the man only wants physical connection, not emotional. It's that to want emotional connection to precede the physical connection, and typically want the physical connection to precede emotional. I said that precede emotional connection. Is that what I should have said? To precede the emotional, connection. And so neither couple don't want both. It's just the order in which they want it. And as soon as you can think of exceptions to this rule. So I'm not saying that this is the only exceptions to this rule, but the real bigger principle is the power of giving what a person uses.
I was just gonna say that's just. I mean, it's like just to park right there, like just on this step number one that we're talking about, because I love that you said they both want the same thing. It's just in the order that they come. But a lot of times in marriage, that simple understanding is not understood. And so you're arguing, husband, all you want is physical sex, and all you want to do is just this is the husband of it. And you don't want that. All you want to do is for me to just hold your hand and sit on the couch, or I don't know, or just have like an emotional thing. And they're arguing. It's just about this. They want the same thing, but it's just they don't understand. It's just in the order that things that they want them, and that misunderstanding leads into a bigger disconnect and pushes them
And
further away from each other.
and this is why success in marriage can so many areas of life. Because if
Mhm.
you master this skill, this is gonna help you in the workplace. This is gonna help you with children. This is gonna help you in so many areas of your life. What you're gonna see is the
Mhm.
ability to take your focus off your needs, to be present, to identify what this other person actually wants, and gonna
Right.
help you deliver more effectively.
Mhm.
How many bad salespeople who the priority of selling the product was way more important than and your needs. Like how many
Mhm.
people, and they're so annoying. And so one person who's like, I know exactly what you need. We're not actually selling that, but you can hear. Like they're that honest, a linear focus on what it was that you needed. Now, what trust? So you know if you ever need something that that person has, you can trust them. So
Mhm.
I'm saying all that to say this is a core to take our eyes off of our needs long enough to actually service and provide in a meaningful way. And often that is an important step in actually getting what you want.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
critical.
I was going to say, when you were answering that question, you kind of went into a second step that she teaches. Like she says, you know, it always the saying goes that it takes two to tango. And what she teaches couples is it you can one can tango.
It takes one to tango. It takes one to tango. And she
Hmm.
of how much you can influence
Right.
through your behavior. Like
Do our
you can
behavior.
influence um and what's a practical I guess and the practical example of that. Wanting to say it's this?
Well, no. Go ahead. Share your practical example, and then I'll say.
Pr- the practical example, and she did it so beautifully. She said was there, there was a there was a couple. The the wife came from where I guess they did a lot of raging, so she didn't like conflict.
Hmm.
Lo and behold, a person who's very emotionally expressive, you know, and he would trigger her to say, "Hey, calm down, calm down, calm down." I hope I'm not like I'm skipping ahead. And so the reason for meeting is because how she chose to solve the problem is to tell him calm down. She needed him to calm down. She needed him, and so she was giving what she needed, and
Hmm.
of course escalate him. It would just make him more angry. And so the to address it was to have did something different. So she went into the room when he was like shouting, and him in she joined him in shouting, and that actually calmed him down. Now where he was like, it's not going to be that bad, calm down, I got this, you know. And so she was
Hmm.
startled, and it was kind of, it's important to unpack what actually happened. What
Hmm.
actually happened in the experience of being heard. No more was she saying calm down is dismissive. If I'm trying to
Hmm.
get loud and you tell me calm down, I'm upset. If you really want to
Right.
calm me down, join me and make it clear. If you do that, that will calm you down.
Right.
And so as she joined him, okay, well, you're hearing me. At least this is what's happening happening on the subconscious level. And it's so important to give what the person needs and not what you need. So that a fundamental bedrock, super important issue that she.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a great thought, and it's not even just a thought; it's a reality because she uses an example that it just takes one to tango. Like if you change, that changes the dynamic, the relationship changes, right? Because you can make change, like you said before, like you can say trigger a negative thing, like you can say the negative comment that that's going to trigger your spouse and they're going to change. But you can also say the positive, healthy comment that's going to trigger them to change in the positive way.
Exactly.
And so
you can into a constructive area, you can take the conversation to an area where you're dealing with it. Right. And it's up to you. Say, Atante, I'm thinking of trying some. I think my visual on the computer is better, but the microphone is better. I could come on, so I could join through my computer, but I would mute. I would mute the sound.
Okay, try that.
Yeah, so I would mute the sound.
Okay.
And then so
okay.
you'll get the sound from my recording, and then maybe I can just shut off this recording.
Okay.
And I can shut off that. Is that better? Is there a way to rearrange me?
So there's just three. Oh, well, no, that's not quite it. I think we might have to deal with having that in the corner for it to work. But if the audio's better, let's just leave that. They can see us.
Are you good?
How's
so
that?
you good like this?
Yeah, we hear you. We see you. This is good. Yeah, people are saying not better. Same. I'm hearing you fine. Put a 1 in the chat if you're hearing Dr. White talk, so they can hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that one is the real giving, the power of real giving. Guess what you have to do in order to give for real? You have to die to self.
Basically, yes. People are saying 1 is better. Okay, so cool. Let's move forward. So just in case, just to recap, so the real giving, the basically dying to self, right? And then 2, it takes 1 to tango. It takes 1 to tango because and how we prove that, and how Michelle Weiner Davis proves it in her theory, is that we change our partners. We know how to trigger them. We know our negative words and things can trigger them to go negative. We can also trigger them in a positive way as well. So it takes 1 to tango. Her third concept, which is we should automatically know this, but we just don't think this way when we're in our marriages and having issues. But she says, do more of what works. Do more of what works. And she uses an example of like when she's seen a couple and they're having major issues. This is when she was seeing couples weekly. And they would come in and say, we were doing good for like 3 or 4 days. And then on day 5 and 6, we got in an argument. And so she'll say, okay, so take me back to from days 1 to 4. Tell me tell me. And she'll say, what were you guys doing on those days? Because something was working, like you guys were doing well. And then they'll, say we were spending time together, or we were texting kind words to each other. We were working together and being positive with each other. And then she said, okay, so you can see, like you see the solutions to your problems because you were doing them from day 1 to 4. And then day 5, 6, and this is 7, they're meeting with her, you had some issues. So you obviously stopped doing that. So do more of what was working. I mean, this isn't science. This is just like, makes sense. Go ahead, Dr. White.
Well, that you would bring it up, and especially the way she brought it up. What's interesting? Her approach is to be solution focused, but
Mm-hmm.
what you'll see, we tend to be problem focused. We tend to be problem focused. So, in other words, on how many interactions did you have where you weren't at each other's throats? And
Right. What did that
you
look
look
like?
over the week, you'll kind of paint it with this broad brush, like in fact, you had so many positive interactions, but you have this one, and now you're going to let that relationships. Like I'll be intrigued that sometimes, as we're talking about that was a hard year for us. We were really struggling. You were struggling 365 that year. Like you guys didn't celebrate birthdays. You didn't have a vacation. You didn't have sex. Come on, give me a break. You know? But that's what will categorize an entire year. Like
Right.
that was negative. Or even those were the years we weren't doing so well. And so what Michelle has conditioned her solution focus. No, the way you're inclined to magnify hey, let's not miss the positives. And the power of noticing, she then urges them, well, now do more of that. Now the reason it was so hard to do, focusing on that. You weren't focusing, and so you weren't giving yourself the opportunity to learn, magnify it. But that's one of the first things we can do for our relationships. We can stop doing that. It's this horrible thing just because this one bad thing happened. Okay.
Right.
But how many good things happened? How many good things? And think, how many good things happened that we don't take the time to celebrate and say, yo, man, difficult periods. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just saying, we look at the thorns, we highlight the thorns instead of the flowers.
We miss the rose.
Yeah, we miss the rose.
Oh my goodness!
And we're very
thorns.
and we're very it's very easy to do that in a marriage. It's very easy to do it. And you feel so justified and just park yourself right there at the thorns. And again, it just causes the relationship to become more and more disconnected and dysfunctional. But just being intentional about recognizing the things that, okay, almost like make it like I almost said a homework assignment because that's what they do in therapy, but make it like a project. Like, let me try to really focus on days that we've done very well in our marriage and we seem to get along better. Let me really be intentional about what was working, and then highlight those things and attempt to do more of that within your marriage consistently.
No, yeah, absolutely. No question. So Michelle, thank you for the question. Michelle asked the question. So what about when he's caused chronic trauma, good times? Literally. So very, very interesting. A few ways that I would tackle that. Number one, I would ask the question, always bad? Meaning, are you telling me that the relationship was bad from okay? And there are relationships that may be bad from the inception. Maybe, but I think that represents a minority of the situations, or less than the majority. Then, if it was bad from the inception, my goodness, that's a of information in terms of why did I choose a person bad from day one.
Right.
Like that. Right. That's on. And here's why that question is so critical, because to fix that and address that so it doesn't set you up for the advantage to working on ourselves in our relationships is to fix the issues that either fit from or a future relationship may benefit from. It can be incredibly dangerous to not ask ourselves that. If I chose this person, barring a person holding me at gunpoint, why did I continue to, from day one, meaning from dating? Day one would be from dating. Why did I accept, like, what was going on at that point? And so obviously that's the extreme example. Rich questions to ask, and sometimes even a therapist can help you. Okay, let's unpack. That's not most people's experience. Most people, they had periods where there's ups, downs, and so Michelle's argument. I'm sorry.
I was like, yes, there's hills and valleys, but
there's hills and
there's
valleys.
always valleys.
And so she's saying, notice hills and do more of that. Do more of that. Let's go to the start of most relationships. At the start of most relationships, why are they so enjoyable?
Right before we I'm sorry. Were you going on to the next?
No, I wasn't going on to the next.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to...
Okay. No, I just wanted to say with that as well. Like, even though I know, was her name Michelle too? I'm trying to think.
It was Michelle. It was
okay from Michelle. Day one. Yes. Okay. So just wanted to kind of piggyback on that too. From Michelle's question is, it sounds like it is not, and it's extremely not. It's not a happy situation. And as you've said, you believe that he's caused chronic trauma, and you're saying it's been like that from day one. So not being your therapist, or Dr. White being your psychiatrist, and not knowing all the details of everything, but you're some of these principles, we're not here to make a decision for you, like whether you should be in this situation or not. I mean, that's something that you have to work out between you and God, and a mental health professional, if you choose to go that route as well. But these principles can still help, you having an impact on your spouse, even if you're, saying that, hey, it's not good. Every day is not good. You choosing to not trigger him or negatively, but you're trying to you're behaving with the fruit of the spirit, if you will. So that's what you're putting out there. And that, can trigger a positive change in your spouse. And so just trying to apply some of these principles can make, it might just be a little change. It may not be a massive change, just a little change, but it can make a difference, because, fire will, just cause worse problems and make a situation worse. And again, not knowing your situation, not knowing if it's a safe situation for you, if you should stay there or not. But
it's hard to counsel. So you're really speaking to, these are the overarching principles that we're talking about.
Right.
Trauma. So trauma, especially physical trauma, there are specifics when life is in jeopardy, so on and so forth. And that's why it really requires a specific, response. And we're talking in generalities.
Yes.
To talk to you about some tools that can be helpful turning relationships, around. But that's for you, practitioner. But back to what you were saying, I mean, just some really, really profound points, just about taking the time to notice the pattern of when things are working, and to do more of that. Like that, that is really, really, really important. That brings us to now the next step, is stop doing what thing. Okay.
Yeah. Do
So
less of
notice
what
the pattern.
doesn't I don't know if I
Yeah,
heard
what
you
doesn't
clearly. I
work.
don't know if it broke up a little bit, but doing less of what doesn't work. Okay. So that's the
Yeah,
fourth point. You can go ahead.
stop doing it's not working. So yet again, you can notice there are arguments that this day, if we bring up that topic, we're gonna argue, or we're gonna feel away this day.
Mhm.
And there are relationship therapists that talk about resolve those arguments. Those are not even arguments that need to necessarily be resolved, okay? Because
Right.
they're just there. You can have a happy, functional marriage by issues per se, and
Mhm.
recognizing, you know what, we're going to agree to disagree. I thought Michelle was, it was so like, it was so cute. She said, she has a bridge. Like her and her husband, they are on different ends of the political. I think that's just so cute. Like, and they've been at it, I think, for 40. So they have figured out ways to navigate around that. And
Mhm.
they're not going to discuss politics. Like, so we can be very different. We can we can agree to disagree. We can work around our differences. But the bottom line, every time you're having an argument about this given issue, sometimes speak in those generalities because we don't know your specific situation.
Right.
Sometimes to build systems to navigate around touchy, tense things that will corrupt the relationship experience.
Right.
What are your
You know,
thoughts, sis?
I was just gonna say, I mean, Ivor and I learned early on. I mean, we've been married 24 years, but we learned early on just thinking about do less or to stop doing what's not working. We realized, I think I've shared this on here before, that we used to travel like either very early in the morning when we would had to go to an airport with the kids and we're traveling for ministry, and we didn't get a lot of sleep because we had to do all this packing and all this stuff. And when we're tired, that's when we argued. Like we would argue on the way to the airport to do ministry trips because we were tired. And we realized, we were like, okay, we being tired is definitely our trigger. And when we have to be up late to be like at the airport early or to do whatever early, we need to not talk on the car ride there. I mean, really, we learned that. I mean, that's because we didn't get a lot of sleep. And so we're very easily triggered. And like, so what could be a normal conversation where in a two well rested people is going to turn into an argument. And so we learned that, and we stopped doing that. And so now we don't argue on the way to the airport if
That's
it's
funny
early in the
because
morning.
there's being hungry, there's being tired, rest. Like,
Mhm.
what I notice is relationship ambushes. Like, if you really pay attention to argument aware, right? If you pay attention to
Mhm.
the arguments that come out of nowhere, when you unpack them, that those are some factors that are bearing down on the situation. Hunger, climate issues, either it's too hot or it's too
Mhm.
cold.
Right.
Your child is screaming.
Mm.
You're fearful of something. You've had a problem. Isn't that like traveling to do this? Because there's the stress of making it somewhere, and it's a amount of inconvenience if you don't make it on board. So now you've got
Right.
time pressures. You've and how you deal with time. So it
Mhm.
can just be a recipe for fights and ambushes, and you don't. And it like things happen so quickly. It comes out where that's where relationship recovery. That's where healing is so critical.
Mhm.
That's really important. Like, we're just doing this because we love one another. We really need to remember that. And hey, you know
Mhm.
what? I'm sorry. I was short. I apologize. And a good apology goes a long way. Take responsibility as quick as possible. If you apologize publicly, you know,
Mhm.
you know what, guys? I'm sorry about that. This was not all right. Be
Right.
because you look so much bigger doing that. And the fact that, dude, you jacked up, man. Just own it. Nobody's perfect, so it's okay. And move on. What are your thoughts, sis?
Yes, I thought because we have a few questions here, so I want to see. I feel like we haven't gotten to a lot of questions.
Let's attack. All right, we had Gigi, who said, "What are some helpful tips for getting out of negative roles or identities we ourselves and our spouses, victim, villain, good guy, bad guy, healthy, unhealthy?" Interesting, approaches to that. We that there are like dimensions of ourselves, right? Crappy attitudes. I shouldn't say that word, by the way. Like where we're not
bad attitude. I mean,
yeah, it's like this bad attitude. It's where
not good.
we have consistent places where God is working on us, right? But it's like might be being hypercritical, let's say, or you're short, maybe you have a little that. So I like to call that person Jermaine. So my middle name is Jermaine. Well, every once in a while, Jermaine wants to show up. Okay. What I like to say is that's just Jermaine. You know what? Let me get back to being Ricardo. My wife's middle name is Alice. So it's like, honey, Alice is showing, and so an important part of this is laughing. It's keeping things light. But to your question, what are some tips? Negative aspects. It's, hey, you know what? That's just that alter ego, and let's get back to being who I am. So one of my favorite phrases is saying something like a bad temper and adding the two words until now. X, Y, or Z until now. The beauty of adding is it opens the door for change. It might just change. And so that's where you don't wait that you are locked into being that negative person forever. So tips that I would, recommend, Gigi, as far as dealing with of ourselves.
Yes, and there's another question up there, and I'm not quite sure. It's probably another one, but we don't have all the facts. But how do you intelligently make decisions for or against your marriage? I think if you believe that despite painful holes in your marriage, your husband loves you. And then Joanne added, and this is while living with abuse and emotional needs. So, Joanne, I'm not sure if I'm assuming what you're saying, that there's abuse. I don't know if that's physical or emotional or either. Doesn't matter really. Both are not healthy, good situations to stay in. And if you're saying even through that abuse, you're believing that your husband loves you. And I guess if I'm assuming right, you're trying to say, how do you make a decision to choose to stay in the relationship? I'm thinking, I don't know, Dr. White, are you reading that differently?
How do you intelligently make a decision for or against your marriage if you believe holes in your marriage, your husband loves you? Well, a lot of us, if we're coming from a traumatic past, it is going to corrupt our decisions. There's something that I've dubbed broken picker syndrome, and that's just my personal way of describing how, when endured enough trauma. Some of us, if we've grown up with a traumatic past, pair our ability to set healthy boundaries and have the consequences when those boundaries are violated. And so imagine there they've been traumatized. Now, with that broken picker, decisions about what love looks like, or what loyalty looks like, or so on and so forth. So what would be advisable is getting healing, is experiencing healing about how you were traumatized, learning what healthy boundaries are. Because let me explain something. One of the things that we can do as humans, we can adapt to toxicity. We can adapt to things. And just because you're adapting doesn't mean it's not maladaptive.
Adaptive, right?
And so that's why you need that outside therapy to help.
No, I was just totally agreeing with you. And so we can adapt to it, and then it seems normal and okay.
Right. And so,
when we adapt.
yeah, that's where you need that outside healing.
Yeah.
So that you need to take the steps to fix the broken picker.
Yes. Yes. We have one more, 5 things that can, I say, immediately help your marriage after you've learned what going through those other steps, and like that last step, stop doing the things that don't work. And then number 5 is do something different. Do something new and different, to see if that doesn't disrupt the negative pattern that you have going on in your marriage. And that's the 5th step.
And that was the illustration of the wife yell a lot, and so she would constantly tell him calm down, and so then she decided to she joined him, and she was like that's rotten, and mirrored him, and I suspect that what it did was it communicated me, like, and probably like on a subconscious level. But trying to do is often to tell a person calm down. It can feel very dismissive. It can feel like you're not actually listening to me. You don't even just say calm down. You're also like, what are you worried about? Like, no, there's no reason acting. Like, those are all statements that diminish and pain. And when pain gets dismissed or diminished,
well, you never seen the meme,
but sometimes they come back even stronger. What's that?
There was a meme on Facebook that said telling a woman to calm down is like throwing water on a cat.
Not a
and I can so relate to that. And the cat was like, it just made it worse.
Not a good
idea. It just made it worse. Yeah, not a good idea. But trying something different, interrupting the sequence and the pattern, because relationships get into a negative pattern, and families get into negative patterns. I mean, it's the same principle, and trying to interrupt that pattern. Sometimes when you interrupt something, it has to reorganize itself. And so trying to reorganize your relationship, and going to the positive to reorganize. So just disrupting and trying something different.
Hallmark question for this is, like, people, the hallmark question is, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
Results. Yeah. And if you're not happy with the results, could it be time to different? So that's the hallmark question. And when you're in some relationship dynamics and how things are unfolding, it may be time pulling back and asking yourself, how's that working for me?
Right.
And if maybe it's time to do something different.
Yes. Yes. Well, we started late, but it's an hour ago. So we're ending a little bit later. And so I believe, we haven't discussed this completely, but I think we want to continue,
yes,
because Michelle Davis, Weiner Davis,
Wiener Davis.
Weiner Davis. Okay,
Michelle.
Michelle Weiner Davis. Yes, she has, she goes deeper. This was just, just the surface. And so hopefully we're hoping that those 5 steps, and please review this, go back and watch the replay and maybe take some notes, but definitely share this program with on your social media platform. If you haven't liked our Living Manna or follow our Living Manna on Instagram, please follow us, and share that with your friends and family and those who you believe can benefit from this information, can help. And I believe all marriages, whether it's on the brink or not, all marriages can benefit from those 5 steps that we just spoke about today. So we wanted you to share that with everyone that you know, and definitely share it on your social media platforms. So we're going to continue this discussion, and like we said, go even deeper next week. And we invite you to come back, invite your people that you know, friends, family, coworkers, everyone that you, again, believe that would really benefit from this information. And we are happy to be back, and we will be back next week. And so we will be looking for you. So until then, have a very good evening. God bless you.
Have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.